Good evening, everybody. There we go. So, Kelly, the pinned comment isn't coming up. Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. It'll just be a sec before we get started here. Why can I not find? There we go. Let us know where you're watching us from. If you are live with us, say hello. Kelly and I are sharing this stuff, sharing the live onto our personal, so we'll get started in a sec here. Kelly, it's so weird. I don't even see us live on my phone. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, we're live.
Okay. Okay. Hey, everybody. Hi, Sheila. All right, so we'll get started in a sec here. I hope you guys are having an awesome Tuesday. It's so chilly in the Pacific Northwest these last couple of days. I've been like waking up just like super cold. But wherever you are, I hope you guys are staying warm because, I feel like winter's definitely here. It's starting to get so cold. The heater is on every second of the day, literally. We have a very, I would say, hopefully informational, but also inspirational show for you guys tonight, too. It's a topic that I know Callie takes great interest in because she herself is a writer. I am looking into writing a book, just kind of a memoir of my mom's story as well. And so this is also something very interesting to me. I got to get started on that stuff. I just have not had any time, but I've been thinking about it for a while. I think a couple years now. Callie and I've been talking about just writing and what things we want to write about for a little bit now. So we are super excited to have this guest on, and so we hope that you guys tune in, stay engaged with us as well, ask questions, all the good stuff. So
if please do share this with your network, or tag a friend that is looking to write. I know I saw a stat somewhere that like 80% of like people want to write a book, and so there's lots of people just lots of people that are really interested in being writers. And so I think this is a full-time writer. This is not like a Callie writer writing on the side. This is actually somebody that has been doing it for years, and we found out some really cool stuff about what he did prior to writing. And so feel free to show this to your parents and tell them that you too can be a writer. You don't have to be a doctor or a lawyer or any of those prestigious careers.
Yeah, and I think it's just so there's just so much too. It's like, how do you know what to write about? Like, what genre you want to write about or are most passionate about? And there's just so much that goes into it. And I think for someone who's never done it before, and I'm glad that you say that, like 80% of people want to write a book, but maybe only 2% actually really write the book, because it is so big and scary if you've never done it before. And so me personally, I'm glad that you've done it, Callie. So if I ever need anything, I know I can call you. But I think you just kind of have to do it. But most people are really scared. Like myself. It's like, where do you start? Because there's just so much in your head. So how do you formulate all that, right? So I'm super excited for this episode just to kind of learn more from V and kind of his journey. So I'm excited
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, and like I think writing itself is pretty boring, y'all. Like I think we forget that like all the behind the scenes. Like it's nice when you have something to produce, but then behind the scenes it's like Saturday mornings or like not going out. Yeah, it's just like spending that time actually doing the work, and that's the part I think that most
Yeah.
people struggle with, of like sitting down and like not being distracted and just writing. At least that's how I feel. I don't, you know, our guests might be like, I just wake up every day, like, can't wait to write today, you know?
Yeah.
So we'll be very curious to
Yeah.
find out.
Well, and writer's block too. I think a lot
Yeah.
of people experience that as well, right? So,
Yes.
all right. So before we get started, we had some updates. I'm not exactly sure what they are. It's been a minute. But we are going to bring on the Miss Global Hmong candidates. Is that what they call it? Or delegates? Um,
Contestants.
I think so. We don't do our
Delegates is
homework
like
very well.
government. Isn't delegates government? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know what, I don't remember. But anyway, we are wanting to bring them on, and so we are reaching out. But we have our first one coming up. Kelly shared a video of her. I think either yesterday or today, and so we're super excited to kind of just talk about that. Our last live that we came on, we had talked about pageantry, and then we talked about all the Hmong people competing, and then I think someone had tagged us somewhere and it was a real thing. And so we just thought it was so interesting. And so we're going to try to bring them on and talk to them a little bit about the organization and just their journey and their platform and what they want to do with that information. And so it'll be interesting. But we have our first one coming on. And then secondly, we also wanted to mention too that today's show is actually sponsored by WACMA, which is a nonprofit out of Wisconsin that started a statewide initiative to address mental health for underserved communities. And they implemented the Project Resiliency. And so, you guys, we put out a video not too long ago about a warm line that went live. And so it is now available Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Central Time. Their number is 1-800-293-7080. So should you need them, they are there for you free of charge. Also, if, anyone that's kind of going through anything, even if you don't speak English, they do have Hmong interpreters there too that can kind of talk you through things. So, it's available. Use it. It's a resource for us, and they've worked really hard to kind of make this available because they saw that there was a need. So, please kind of help spread the news and share that as well. All right, Kelly, I will pass it over to you to introduce our guests and bring him on.
All right, so tonight we have with us V. Moua. He's the author and illustrator of the SAMMY BIRD series, a picture book about a little red bird and his amusing misadventures with his friend Turkey. V. Moua published his first book in 2015, and as of 2022, he has written and illustrated over 200 books, which is so crazy. And I'm so curious to know like how he even got to, like 200 books. His long-term goal was to write more than 500 books.
Wow.
He lives in Stillwater, Minnesota with his wife, 3 sons, and their dog. His journey as an author illustrator has been profound and rewarding as he does this full-time working from home. He hopes that his books will bring joy and laughter to readers around the world. And of course, he has his website, vmoua.com, and then his Facebook page is vmoua books. And with that, we will bring him on.
Hello, hello.
Hi there.
How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. How are you?
Good. Thank you. Thank you for being on. As Kelly and I shared with you a little bit before the show, we are super excited to have you on just to kind of learn more about you and your journey and how you became a writer. So could you just provide us a little bit of background about yourself out of, what Kelly just introduced you as? So anything you want to elaborate on?
Sure. So my background. Well, I received my undergrad degree at Colby College in Waterville, Maine. And then I went down to Texas and I received my Doctor of Chiropractic degree in 2004. And then I came back up to Minnesota, practiced chiropractic in Minnesota, and then moved down to North Canada, practiced chiropractic down there as well. And so And then after that, my wife and I, we had children. And it was with having children that I came to the realization that, I wanted to be able to spend more time with them. I want,
Mhm.
as a chiropractor, you work long hours, you work weekends as well. And I wanted to be able to spend time with them and be able to see my children grow up. And so I was always looking for the opportunity. And lo and behold, we had children, and that was the moment where I realized that, I had an opportunity in front of me, and it allowed me to it gave me inspiration. Having children gave me inspiration out of nowhere. You get all these emotions when you have kids, and I felt inspired to write a book, and that's when I wrote my first book, and everything else is history since.
Wow.
So, I think every parent's dream is for their child to become a doctor. And so, how did your parents feel about you deciding to go from a chiropractor to a writer? And one of my brothers is a chiropractor, and I don't know he's watching right now, but I think my parents were probably like so ballistic.
Freak out.
Yes, if they found out that he's like, I want to become a writer now.
Yeah. With my parents' response, they're traditional, so they don't. The concept of making passive income, that's new to them, and
Mhm.
so I did that for maybe about a year or two on the side. And when it really just blew up, and I talked to my parents about it, they were quite surprised. They weren't sure what to think of it, because I remember back in the day when I was young, my parents, especially my dad, he would always say, cartoons, stop watching cartoons. It's not good for you and stuff like that. And that kind of helped me with my writing in a sense. It gave me ideas for my books as well. A lot of things gave me ideas, but when I was able to tell them that you can make a living off this, it really surprised them, especially going from a chiropractor to a published author, and that's a big
Mhm.
difference. But when they see that you're bringing in income and you're able to provide for your family, they were fine with it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of ways to make passive income, but like, how did you decide? Like, did you explore other things as well, or like, have you always enjoyed writing? Because I think that I feel like most people would not be like, you know what, I don't like my
I'm gonna
job.
write.
Yes, I'm gonna go be a writer and make money there.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right. Well, it wasn't that I didn't like my job. I did like the profession. It was just the hours, and I knew that
Mhm.
long term it wasn't going to work if I was going to want to be with my kids. But when it came to passive income, that thought came to me when I was reading a magazine from my alma mater, and I think this is like 2007 or 2008, so a while back ago. And I was reading an article about some student, and he was making passive income. He was still a college student. He was making like $300,000 plus at the time while I was in college, and that really amazed me. I was thinking, wow, now come no one ever told me about passive income, right? Making money while you sleep. And that was the
Mhm.
seed that was planted in my brain ever since then. And then ever since that moment, I started finding opportunities to make passive income while I was still working my chiropractic job. I just couldn't stop thinking about the opportunity. And
Mhm.
I've gone to other ventures as well. I have other passive income streams that are passive right now as well, outside of what I do with my books. And I've been doing that for a while, and it's just worked for me.
Yeah. So did you ever like think, you would become a writer?
So no, I had no aspirations to write. Uh, again, it was having children. Um,
Yeah.
and behold, I had no idea what having children, being a parent, what being a parent would do to you or do to me, but
Mhm.
it really did inspire me to, and it made me feel like I wanted to leave something behind for my kids. And at the time, I think this was like 2014 or so. So our children were 3 and 2 at the time, and our kids, they were still young. And I remember my wife and I would read lots and lots of books to them every night, bedtime stories after bedtime stories. And I think after reading so many hundreds of stories, I thought to myself, you know what? I think I could probably write a book too. And how hard could it be? And so that was my aha moment. That was the moment where I realized that, this is what I would give to my kids. This is something physical that they can have, a physical copy of a book. And that would be my gift to my kids. Like even long after I'm gone, they would have that book to remember me. And
Mm.
so that was my first venture. And I got that
Yeah.
book out of the way, and it just fueled this passion to write some more. And I've been doing it ever since.
That's such a
Yeah.
great way to like think about y'all like writing and
Mhm.
leaving something behind. So I mean, we just went from like 0 to 100 and all of that. So maybe you can just take us back. And like Olivia said earlier, I just self-published a book, and so I'm very, very interested in like just like how did you like what did you self-publish, and then you talked about Amazon. So maybe you can just like for somebody who chipawa chilina, maybe you can just walk us through like how if you self-published, you went through Amazon, like what was just some of those steps, if you can kind of remember
Sure.
and walk us through
So,
that.
right. So, sure. I decided to self-publish because, I just wanted my book out there. My book was meant for my kids. So I didn't care about going the traditional route. And going the traditional route, it may take years just to find an agent and then get it published. So that wasn't the route for me. And in hindsight, I made the right choice, self-publishing. And you know what? At the time, Amazon made it really easy. So right now, you go to KDP, which stands for Kindle Direct Publishing. It's easy to sign up. You can if you have a finished copy of your work at Microsoft Word, you can upload it, sell it as a
Mhm.
digital copy, sell it as a paperback, and you also get money through Kindle Unlimited. So this process of setting up is not difficult at all. And there's also YouTube videos to help you set it up. But as long as I think if you could get the first book underway, I think everything else would be easier. And that's what I did. I think the first book that I wrote, it was challenging in a sense that I was new to everything. I had to kind of figure things out by myself. But
Yeah.
if you're self-published, it's pretty straightforward right now. And I think that the difficult part now is just really finding the audience, finding writing material that's targeting the audience that you want.
Mhm.
And so when you so then as you were doing this, you're probably seeing some income coming in, but at some point you told your parents. Was that when like you felt like this is a sizable amount, so I can tell my parents, hey, like I'm going to be leaving, or like, like were you replacing your income and then you felt like, okay, I can get out, like, and then were you telling people to like letting people know I'm writing on the side, like just walk us through that.
Right. So then, gosh, there's so many questions there.
I know, I'm sorry, it's just so much to know.
Yeah. Initially, I did. So my first book, My Gift for You, which was that was again for my kids, and so that was more specific. Just that did not do well in terms of sales, and I didn't anticipate it doing well because I wasn't targeting a specific audience. But the second book that I wrote was about about a bluebird, and this bird had some quirky natures to him. He instead of tweeting and chirping, this bird he wanted to moo like a cow, and so that book actually did well for about 2 or 3 years. And I recall, like I had it in the back of my mind, thinking that I'm gonna maybe come back to this bird and maybe do something with it. And
Mhm.
so my books that I wrote, I was lucky and very fortunate that each one of them did pretty well in sales and in pages read. Pages read is where you make money in addition to making sales, and that's different. That's what Kindle Unlimited. I could explain more about that later. But my books, each one of my books were doing well, and so I realized that I had something going on, but at the same time, I didn't hit upon the book that I really wanted to hit upon yet. And I think it took me until I think my 30 something book. And then I came
Wow.
around to writing to the bluebird that I had. And I decided to make the bird red because at the time, my oldest son's favorite color is red. And
Mhm.
I didn't give the bird a name because I wasn't sure what would happen with the book. And I think the book I called it I Wish I Were a Dog. So the little red bird wanted to be a dog, and he was fascinated with dogs in the book. And at the end, he decides it's better just to be himself. And that book did well. And so I
Mhm.
thought, well, man, we might have something here. So I'm going to write another book about it. And I did. And about 10 books later, I realized that it was good enough to make a series out of it. And then I think later I was able to give that bird a name, and I named him Sammy. And the rest is history there. But then, what was your other question again?
Did you tell? Oh yeah, okay. I guess like maybe you can talk a little bit about the advertise, like like were you advertising, and then were you also telling friends? Because I think sometimes when we do like side hustles, like we're a little bit embarrassed. We don't want to tell
Right,
nobody until and
right.
so.
Okay, so I didn't do any advertising. Again, I think I was very fortunate that I started writing early on when before self-published authors, especially in the children's book industry, started piling up on there. And so I think I was early. And not only that, but I think at the time the Amazon algorithm search was a little bit different as well. And so when I published my book, it was really on the first few pages on Amazon.
Mm.
And so I started gaining readers right away. And it was I didn't have to advertise. I didn't have to do anything really. It just kind of came to me. And so I guess I was very fortunate in that sense too. But I did work hard too, at the same sense that I did publish books as often as I could. And I think at the time I tried to publish at least 2 books a month just to stay relevant.
Wow. Yeah.
And so now I've revved it up a little bit now.
Mm.
And now I publish 1 book a week. And so,
Oh my gosh.
I know.
yeah. So my kids are in school now, so it's easier to work on my books during the daytime. And then while my kids are sleeping, I work on my books as well.
Wow.
But in terms of telling friends and family, my family knew that I did this. But friends, it wasn't really, to me, it wasn't really a big deal. I guess I just wanted to see how far I could go with this. And it seemed 8 years later, I'm still writing books.
Wow.
That is amazing.
Yeah. So kind of like speaking on you writing during the day when your kids are at school and at night when they're sleeping, kind of walk us through like what is your process for writing the books? Because you can knock them out one book a week. That's impressive. So can you kind of walk us through that process?
Sure. So the first thing I'll do is I'll think of a title. And the title has to be catchy. It's got to be maybe silly, funny, something that kids may maybe laugh at. Because my target audience is children ages 3 to 7. So it has to be something, and as long as I can create a catchy title, catchy headline, then I can write the manuscript. And so I start the week, maybe over the weekend, and on Monday, I'll think of the title and I'll create the manuscript. And they'll take me a day or two for the manuscript, and then I'll start the illustrations. And the illustrations will take me about 3 days. And then after that, I'll format the book. And once I format the book, I'll look at the sentences, and I'll look at the grammar, and I'll look at just the flow of the text to see if it matches illustrations. And if not, then I'll change some of the text, some of the sentences. And if the illustrations don't match, I'll change up the illustrations. So I think that helps as being an author and illustrator. I can change up the process, make the process a lot faster. I'm able to do that. And once I finish formatting it, I'll do a self-edit. I'll look at the book. I'll read it out loud. I'll probably read it a dozen times. And then I'll read it backwards to check for typos, spelling errors. And then I'll send the book out to a few colleagues, have them have their eyes look at it. And then my last reviewer is my wife. She'll take a look at the book. Once I get the green light of approval from her, then it's good to go. And I set the book for pre-release for a week or 2 ahead.
So how did you learn how to illustrate? Like, was that just, and how did you decide to then start illustrating? Because I'm assuming, again, you started your career in being a chiropractor, and now you're like a writer and illustrator, and I'm assuming you kind of learned that along the way. Right.
Yeah, a lot of learning along the way for sure. So my first book, then I actually did hire an illustrator, a wonderful illustrator. Her name is Yi Tao. She's Hmong, and she did a fantastic job of bringing my book to life. And so the second book, I did decide to do it myself because I thought, well, why don't I try it? Why don't I try illustrating just because, I've written a book. Why not try illustrating as well? And I don't have any, degree in art, but I did take an art class back in 7th grade. It didn't really, it doesn't help me that much. And I recall that I used Microsoft Paint as in my very first book, actually the first book that I illustrated. And so I think I used that for at least maybe 10 books or so until I graduated to using like a free open source tool called GIMP. And then for a while, and then once I graduated to Procreate. So now I use Procreate as my digital tool, and I love Procreate. So it is basically self-taught. And I think there was a lot of mistakes learned along the way. A lot of things I've learned, but I do see that my work has improved. My illustrations have improved drastically along the years. But for children, I don't think they really see the illustrations as something that would stop you from becoming a good writer. I think they just want to be entertained. And so as long as you can write a good story, keep them entertained, the illustrations just kind of add as a complement to what you're trying to do. Yeah. And that's basically how I got into illustrating.
Yeah.
So for your for the storyline for your books, like how do you do you just like where do you grab like the inspiration for it?
Sure. So my children, they are my muse, right? They are my inspiration. I have plenty of material. I think of endless material from them. All my children, they have different personalities, and so I'll watch them, I'll observe them, watch their characteristics, see how they behave, and my characters in my book, they are a lot like my children, and so I don't feel like I have a limit to what I can write. I think it's just a matter of when I feel like I'm done, then with writing, illustrating, then I'll be done, and but I think there is no limit.
Yeah. That's so awesome. Um, Kelly, I'm not sure where you started.
You can do number 6, yeah.
So you talked a little bit about Sammy the Bird series. Could you kind of share how did you get the idea to kind of start that series? I know you shared a little bit about that, but how did you kind of get the idea of I want to continue? And then it's not just, a 10-book series, it's
Yeah.
now more than that, right?
Right, right.
So how did it kind of end up that way?
Well, yeah, like I said, the Sammy Bird, it was well received from the beginning,
Mhm.
and I would get emails from readers saying that they enjoyed the Red Bird, and then I introduced Turkey down the line, and readers would email me and say they loved Turkey in the book too, like Turkey was their favorite character, and so I would always receive constant emails saying that they enjoyed these two characters working together, and so I knew I had something special going on, and I wanted to keep writing books as often as I can because it goes back to me watching. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Lord of the Rings, the movie, but a long
Mhm.
time. I think it came out a long time ago, back in the early 2000s, and I remember coming out of the movie theater thinking, "Geez, I can't wait for the next episode." And lo and behold, it's not going to be until another year before the episode comes out. And I guess tying that back to my books, when children read my books, typically, authors don't release books that often, so it could be another 6 months before a book comes out, or even a year. And I didn't want to wait that long because by that time I might be irrelevant to them. They may have forgotten about me or my books. So I wanted to stay relevant. I wanted to be on the back of their minds. And so I figured that I have to keep publishing books as often as I can because these kids, they like my series, they like it, and they want to keep reading more of it. And so it just makes
Mhm.
sense to keep publishing as often as I can.
Yeah.
So have you thought, so yours, you said your books are all 3 to 7 years of age. Have you thought about like moving outside of that, or you just feel like this is a sweet spot and I'm just gonna keep at it?
Right. So with picture books, the ideal range is 3 to 7, and that's the target audience I do write for. Picture books, they're stories that are read by early readers or for young readers, and they tie the text and the illustrations together to tell a story. And so, yeah, that is my crowd, and so I focused on that age range in particular, and that's who I write for.
Yeah.
And I guess like it probably is a little bit easier, y'all, to write for that range versus like older, because then that's like more writing that you or like storyline and plot and all that stuff.
Yeah, well, I like to keep my stories simple, and I think that's what works. It's simple stories, simple illustrations, and just keep it silly. And that formula has worked.
Yeah. Olivia, Olivia used to draw. And we have like 4 trips next year. Now, you know what? I think we're going to write a children's series. Like I can write, she can draw. So I just feel like you are totally inspiring us.
Yeah, go
I
for
don't know how my drawing will look like, to be quite honest with you, Kelly. They're
No,
like
but
stickers.
I think one of the things that I do like about your drawings is that it's very relatable to and hopefully you don't take this as it's just very relatable for kids. Like I feel like they see that and they see themselves in those drawings, if that makes sense, right? Because I think sometimes like the very elaborate, like pictures and stuff, I don't know if that appeals to them as much as something that they can see and they can be like, I know exactly what that is because I draw just like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think you're right on right there. I try to make my characters relatable in the drawings. They're simple, like these drawings.
Mhm.
Children can draw these, and then so that's the key thing. I think that's a lot of things that maybe that's one factor that a lot of maybe authors who are writing for children don't really realize,
Yeah.
but that is a key component, and I think that helps with my success.
Yeah.
Is it my turn?
Mhm.
If someone wants to write, how do they get started?
Right. So I would say is whatever you want to write about, know who your target audience is, whether it's self-help, whether it's children's books or romance. Romance writers, if you're a self-published romance writer, you can actually make a lot more money than children's authors. I think I was on a Facebook group, and I see these romance authors, self-published authors, talk about, I've had the best month ever. I made like $50,000 last month or $100,000 last month. Romance writers, that's the place to be. So if you can write romance as a self-published author, that's where you go for. That's, I think, the majority of women who are subscribed to Kindle Unlimited. They are women, and they love to read romance. But going back to what you said, know who your target audience is, and write for them. And so for me, my target audience is children 3 to 7, and I like to keep it silly, I like to keep it humorous. I like it to keep my stories interactive, I like to keep them engaged in the story. If you know who your target audience is, that's already half the battle there.
Yeah.
If you were to start today, like, what are things that, like, to just like speed up your I mean, and I feel like you got successful pretty fast, but if you were to start today, what would you do like differently?
Well, I'd probably start the series earlier. I would start right from the beginning. Find a character that kids can relate to. So find someone that you think kids can be drawn to, and create a series around it. And I think the series, because you want them to keep coming back, and kids do want to keep coming back and reading more of that story. And so if you can do that earlier on, I think that's the better.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, like, you said that you came back to the bird. You didn't do the series right off the bat. And so how did you know you wanted to come back? Because when you wrote that book, you didn't expect it, so kind of, did you see it because there was a boost in sales where you're like, okay, now I want to create a series for this book?
Right. So going back, again, I think I wrote like 30 something books. And then going back, I knew that I had something with that bird from the beginning, and because it always did the best in sales with my other ones, and so I knew I had something there. I just didn't know exactly how to transform that bird or how to make it different. And I think that at that time, then by the time I had written 30 something books, then I had more experience. I knew I had more direction with what I wanted to do, and so I came back around and I realized that, I chose the bird because at the time I thought a bird would be a gender neutral animal. And so girls would like it, boys would like it.
Yeah.
And so that's why I chose that bird. And again, by that time, I think I wanted to create something interactive, something engaging, something that kids will want to interact with the bird. And so I thought, and I created that book, and I knew, like I said, I knew that it was going to be a series because I just kept getting emails from readers saying that they just wanted more and more, and it just worked out.
Yeah, that's awesome. Callie, do you want to put up Ming's question?
Sure. Yeah, let's see. Putting out a book a week, does it start to feel like a job, or how do you keep the passion fire alive so it doesn't become a chore?
Right. So I look at each book as a new project, and so each project for me takes a week. And so if I look at it from that time frame and that perspective, then no, it doesn't feel like a job. And I'm lucky I get to wake up and work from home. I don't have to commute anywhere. I could just walk over from my bedroom to my office and start working, or I could work from anywhere I want in the home. I can just go onto my iPad and start drawing. So no, it doesn't feel like work. It's just, I just feel very fortunate that I can do what I do. And like I said, that seed that had been planted back in 2007, it's grown to fruition now. And it was just, I just, had to believe that it was possible. And, here I am today.
Yeah.
How many hours would you say that you work a week?
Good question. I don't keep track of that. I work often, as often as I can, but maybe I don't, because at the same time when I'm working, I have, like, I'll have music on, or I'll listen to some podcasts, and so it doesn't feel like I'm really working. So I can't, I don't really know how many hours a week I do work. I try to spend every day as much as I can. And on the weekends, I do try to spend time with my family as much as I can as well. But when my boys come home, we spend time together, throw the football around the house or outside, try to stay engaged with my kids, try to play with them as much as I can right now while they're young. before they don't want to hang out with an old man like me no more. So.
And I assume that you probably feel like you have good work-life balance versus like being a chiropractor. Would you say?
Right. So yeah, I can't complain about the hours, and that was the one thing that I didn't like as being a chiropractor was just the odd hours that you had to work, um, and just being able to dictate your hours and having the flexibility to decide, what, if I didn't want to work today or do work on my book, I could go outside, go for a walk, or go downtown and just preamble around the stores, or go out to eat for lunch or whatever. It's just I could do whatever I want and whenever I want, and that's kind of the beauty of being your own boss and dictating your own hours there.
Yeah. I'm so jealous. I want to go
preamble
downtown as well.
I think it's obviously so different from like just working remote, right? Like no one is controlling your time. So if you wanted to wake up at 2 a.m. and finish illustrating, you can do that, and then go back to bed at 5 or something, So I think that's great.
Yeah. I'm going to take this next question.
Okay? Yep. I was just going to say that.
So Tom asked, what can you say about marketing your books, workshops, ads, etc.? What seems to work well and what did not work so well?
Okay, so marketing. Again, in the past, like I just recently started doing some marketing. So I started doing some Amazon ads and a few Facebook ads. But for the longest time, I did not do ads at all. I didn't touch anything. All I did was I published my book and people would find me. People would find me through Amazon, the Amazon search. And I think that was because I put so many books out there that my books pretty much flooded the market.
Yeah.
So they were forced to see my books. Time. But in terms of marketing, I am doing some marketing now. I have some Amazon ads out there that I put up, I think in October. And so I'm still running them. And just for the sake of running ads, I thought that, if I wanted to reach a bigger crowd, a new audience, that would probably be a good idea just to run those ads. But I like I said, that's about it. It's just Amazon ads and some Facebook ads.
Are there different strategies? Because Amazon is a huge platform with so many different things on there that people can search for. It's the way of shopping nowadays. Are there different strategies out there besides ads to kind of get your stuff noticed? Because, like on social media, like you use hashtags for people to find certain things. So on Amazon, are there certain things that you could use to make your stuff show up first, or,
Well, I'm still a newbie there. I don't
think
experience with ads, and so I don't think I have enough experience to talk about that. And even with social media, I've been really bad at social media. I just started again to social media. I think that's one thing that I would change if I were to do all over again is to get on the social media bandwagon earlier. I think that would have expanded my reach to a broader audience from the beginning. And I think at the time I think I was just complacent with all the readers that I was getting already, the Amazon search. And so I didn't really think about doing social media, but to get to where I want to get to, because I do have longer term goals too. I think I do have to put myself out there more and use more social media.
So what are your longer term goals?
So my longer term goals. So I want to eventually be listed as one of the best sellers on New York Times. So that's one of the goals.
Isn't that one of your goals too?
It is now.
So that's one goal, and then there's a more longer term goal, more of a lifetime goal, and that's just to be considered like one of the go down as one of the greatest children's author of all time. So that's all said and done. When I'm done, I put my pencil down, my paper down, and that's my goal. So who knows if I'll ever get there, but I'm just gonna keep on going.
Yeah, you will. That is 500 books. You will get there.
One a week. I know. That still blows my mind.
Yep. Yeah, me too.
But I guess that's, to turn it out and then just, to have the workload and stuff like that. So does your wife work?
She did. She did work for corporate. I convinced her to quit I think a year ago or two ago. And so now she helps, she helps, gets the kids ready. She does everything around the house. So
wow. Dang. Okay. So let's just back up a little bit, right? Yeah. So your wife does not work. You were a chiropractor and now you're a full-time writer. So let's jump into the next question, which is how much money can someone make writing?
Right. So, each author is has a different story. I know that there are authors that barely make anything, and some authors make, hundreds, thousands, millions. For me, without getting too specifics, I make a comfortable six figures a year. So, I'm able to provide for the family and take care of them. I think at the end of the day, that's all that matters there.
Mm-hmm.
Are you
Yeah.
just sometimes like, I can't believe that I get to do this, like, right? And people read my stuff and I make money and get to spend time with, like that just seems, I'm just jealous right now.
Yeah, yeah, and I forget at times, the influence that maybe my books may have on readers, and but getting emails from young children just telling me that they love my books, they love the characters. It's very rewarding, and it just shows me that I already made the right steps, made the right choices
Yeah.
in my career path.
So how many books would you say that you sell per month?
So I don't look at the sales numbers because there are three ways I make money. Well, there's the
Okay.
sales of the digital copies, and then the sales of my paperback copies, and then there's the program called Kindle Unlimited. So as a self-published author, you can elect to put your books into Kindle Unlimited, and think of that as like the Netflix of books, where as
Mhm.
you pay a subscription fee every month, you get to watch as many movies as you want. Same thing with Kindle Unlimited. You pay a monthly fee, you get to read as many books as you want. So where I benefit as an author is when readers read my books, per page, as if they read more of my pages, I get paid more. So it's based on a basis. And at the end of the month, it doesn't. Right now, it's under about half a penny per page that Amazon pays you, which isn't much on the surface. But if you're talking about millions and millions of pages each month, and yeah, it adds up.
Yeah.
200
Yeah.
books. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
think about the romance writers who have a hold on that niche there. They're the ones
Mhm.
bringing the real bucks right there.
Yeah. Yeah. 3, 4, 500-page book and it gets flipped every time.
Yeah, yeah,
That's a lot of money.
yeah.
Yeah.
Are you like in libraries at all, bookstores? Have you pursued that route at all, or is it all Amazon?
Yeah, I think that's probably the next step. I've been thinking about possibly pursuing maybe a literary agent. I'm not exactly sure yet, but right now my goal is to just keep publishing as often as I can, and I think that I do have bigger goals for myself, and I'm not exactly sure where that's going to lead me. But I'm not in libraries right now. I'm not in. I've had offers to go into schools. I just haven't had the time to do it. But I think that's the next step is to get into schools, visit the children there, and to get onto different platforms as well, just to get more exposure.
Yeah, I was listening to a podcast and there was an author and she writes for like middle school age, but she said that the other part of just like her book deals and she's published traditionally, but the other thing was school visits. Like she would get paid to go to visit schools and stuff like that, and so that was like that actually brings in
Another
additional
stream of
money.
income.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I haven't done that yet, and I think that might be a possibility down the road.
Yeah. So are you still continuing the Sammy Bird series, or like have you thought about maybe creating a whole new series and getting those folks to come to this new series?
Yeah, so right now I'm gonna stick with the Sammy Bird. I think there's still a lot of room to grow there. Still a lot of stories to be told.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that my readers, they still want to read more about. They can't get enough of Sammy and his friend Turkey, and so I'm going to keep doing that until I can no longer do it. I guess until I feel that it's time to move on to the next project. But for the next few years, at least, I think there's still plenty of books to write about with the Sammy Bird.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do this.
Vampire Low has a good question.
What's your biggest challenge as a writer?
My biggest challenge, I think, is coming up with the next story. So again, if I can think of the right headline, the right title, then I can write a manuscript around it. So it's always coming up with the right title of the book. And I think what helps is the different holidays throughout the year. I could always write about different holidays.
Yeah.
That helps out. But that it would be with the most challenging is just coming up with the title. And then once I get that done, then the manuscript, it just kind of flows through.
I mean, you're constantly thinking because you're putting out one book a week.
Yeah.
So I think that is just it blows my mind. It amazes me, but it also just kind of sitting back like thinking one one good title a week. So you spend I don't know how long you spend. Maybe sometimes you think of two titles. Sometimes you think of maybe zero or it's just
Well, I have a document that I'll Google documents, and I'll go in there and I'll just from time to time I'll just sit there and just kind of think of different titles, and I'll just keep it there in that spreadsheet or and spreadsheet as well, and I'll just go back to it, maybe take a look at it and review which ones I haven't used yet for books, and at the same time I'm always thinking of new titles as well. So I guess that is the most challenging, but again I like to look at each book as a new project, and if I keep it from that perspective again, then I won't stress over it.
yeah. Yeah.
Has there been like a moment during your writing career that you're just like something like whether it's someone that is a celebrity that reads it or just something that you're just like, oh wow, like this is really cool.
Celebrity? No, I don't think I've gotten a celebrity read my book yet. But it's just nice to really get the emails from readers, and I get readers emails from all around the world too. So, and that's
Mhm.
even more amazing to me that I can have an impact on people that I've never met across the world. I think there was one incident where I have a cousin. He was in Tokyo, Japan, and our last name is Moua, and he met someone I think at the bar or some at the club, and they asked him about my book, and then he said, "Yeah, that's my cousin." And they took a picture of him and he sent it to me, and that was really cool. But I didn't think that I could find they would find a fan in Tokyo, Japan. But yeah,
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
So
awesome.
are your
That's
books
amazing.
translated in other languages as well?
no, so they're not. They're English, but my books are distributed worldwide. Um, so aside from the U.S., the more popular place where my books sell are in Canada, in Australia, the U.K., and Japan as well, and sometimes Mexico.
Have you thought about writing like a children's book for like in Hmong?
I did. I think that's a possibility, but I'm quite busy right now with what I'm doing now. So I think that might be a possibility for the future. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because I don't think that there's a lot of like children's book out there in our Hmong community. Um so Queen blame Condon, yeah, that's what we do mean
We have a question from Tori, and Tori is actually an author as well. I don't know if you've
Mhm.
heard of Tori, but singer. She used to sing, and so now she's an author. You talked about long-term goals. Do you have any goals for 2023?
Yeah, so I have met Tori. We've met a few times. I have her books. I have books that she has. They're wonderful books. So my goals for 2023, I think, is I would like to stay consistent and continue to write one book a week. I'm not exactly sure if that's still doable throughout the course of the year. I just started doing that over the summer, and I've been able to do that for the past 3 or 4 months now. So I would love to be able to continue to write one book a week, and I would like to probably be more on social media, be more active, try to get more exposure at the same time.
Uh-oh, you're on mute. Olivia, you're on mute.
Sorry, no. I was just gonna say, you guys, we still got a little bit of time left. So if you guys have any questions for V, please let us know in the comments. Um, Mufu did ask a question earlier. I don't know if you want to scroll up, Kelly, but Mufu Zhang asked, did you or are you planning on audiobooks?
Audiobooks for Sammy, I haven't given it thought yet, because I've been so busy writing and illustrating my books. But I've been approached by some individuals already that wanted to do an audiobook with Sammy. I just haven't really given it much thought about that. And I think that might be a possibility again in the future. It just depends on whether or not I can, get everything straightened out and get my everything in order.
So can you explain a little bit like how many pages are your books? And you said it's a little bit simpler, so maybe you can and I'm very listening very very closely. So maybe you can just kind of walk us through like your books.
Sure. So right now, a typical children's book in the industry is around 32 pages, could be 40 pages as well. But my children's books are considerably longer. They're around like 100 pages. But because I like to keep the sentences short, I have my one of my sons. He had a hard time paying attention when I would read with him, and so when I would read stories with him, and these stories, these they have paragraphs on them, and so his eyes would start wandering around the room. He would kind of get bored. And so I noticed that, and I thought, well, maybe if it's my kids like that, maybe other kids are like that as well. And
Mm-hmm.
so I started making my sentences shorter, and so each page would maybe just have two sentences, three sentences max, but each page typically has like a sentence, and they're very simple sentences, but they tell a story. They tell a story with the character. My books are, I guess, they're called character-driven books, and at the time when I started writing, I didn't even know that. I just started doing it until I didn't find it out until later on in the process. And character-driven books are books that are largely driven by the character, not really necessarily the illustrations. People, the readers, they come reading your book because they want to see the character, they want to know more about the character, they just want to be around the character. Um, and so I like to keep my books simple. And my books, like I said, they're engaging. So these characters, they interact with the readers. And so if you're familiar with Mo Williams, the Pigeon books, the Pigeon series, my books are similar to that. Where in his book, the pigeon interacts with the readers. My book, my characters, Turkey and Sammy, they love to chat with the reader, interact with them, and I think that's what keeps children coming back to read my books, because I think that makes it a fun experience, a fun reading experience for the children, and not only just them, but if parents and grandparents can enjoy the books as well, that's only a plus. And so that's who I write for. I write for the kids, for grandparents and parents, because I know that if I can win them over with my books, then I know that they're going to want to keep coming back for more.
Yeah.
Yeah, love it. And you have a fan here that says, "We love your books. Keep up the good work." So
Thanks.
if you could go back, would you have even gone to chiropractor school?
Yeah. So I thought about that question. And the answer is a resounding yes, because that's, if I didn't go to chiropractic school, then I would have never met my wife. We met. It was because I think what happened. I volunteered. I think the Lau family at the time, they asked if I wanted to volunteer at their booth, J4 booth, and I agreed to do it. And so I went to their banquet, and lo and behold, I didn't know that I was supposed to bring people to fill up a table. So I stood up on myself, and they gave me this big empty table, and my now wife, she was there at the time helping her parents out. Her dad was working with All Family, and that's where I met her, at the banquet. And yeah, if I didn't become a chiropractor, I would have never met her, and so this probably would never, and this would have never happened. So
did you get invited to have a table because you were a doctor already?
I think it was because I was gonna volunteer at
Okay.
and so I think they're being kind, and they invited me, but I didn't know, again, that I was supposed to bring a group of people to fill up.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, we have a question here. So my daughter is 12. She's an artist and wants to write books and do her own illustrations and work at a coffee shop. Do you have any suggestions on how she can write her first book?
Yeah, so my children can write books, and I encourage children to write books right now. My oldest son, he has 2 books published,
Oh my gosh.
and he's working on his third one right now. And so it's Amazon makes it so easy for anyone to publish a book. The key is just to find the right audience. If you can create a book that's enjoyable for the reader, you're gonna find an audience then. And if you're 12 and you're an artist, I think you're already ahead of the game. If you just start writing, create a manuscript, illustrate the manuscript, and if you want to self-publish, just upload it to Amazon. You can start making money as soon as you can. That's great. My son, I do encourage him to keep writing and to illustrate, but his passion is really fishing. So I think writing and illustrating is kind of secondary.
Yeah. I'm gonna go write a book tomorrow. You inspired me, V. I'm gonna go write a book, and I'm gonna have my 9 and 10-year-old illustrate for me.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Only Tuesday. So, I mean, by Sunday, you should be done. It'll be on this weekend. They should.
Seriously.
I just feel like your story is just so so inspiring. I think especially the fact that like you like earlier we talked about how just like coming from a prestigious career with a high degree, and then choosing something that's just I mean it's just so inspiring, and being able to do it full time, and then like have your wife stay home. Like I just think that's a testament of like what being successful in writing can look like.
Yeah, it's just amazing where life takes you. This is stuff that you don't plan for, that you don't prepare for, but life takes you in certain directions, and if you go with the flow, things might just turn out, all nice and cheery.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think your story resonates with a lot of people too, because after having children, they do change your life forever. They change how you look at things. How how things are being taught to them, how they learn. It's so different from when we were kids too. So I think children do inspire you to do a lot of things, and so I think that story in itself resonates with a lot of men and women. So
Oh,
truly inspiring.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, my children, they're the source of inspiration, but at times they can be the source of my migraine headaches too. So
Yeah.
that's just comes with being a parent.
But I'm sure you use that to write your books
I,
too.
I wrote a book about that. That's called, that's one of the books I have in the series. It's called "I Love You, But You Drive Me Crazy." So
Something to leave behind for your children to remember. Yeah, they would be like, "Dad wrote this about us." I'm sure they can go pinpoint which one it was that you wrote about.
yeah.
That's awesome.
So if you can leave our audience with just some words of encouragement or inspiration, what would you say?
Well, if you're interested in writing a book, whether it's romance or self-help or children's, I would say get started now. Create a timeline for when you want to complete that book. I remember when I first wrote my first book. It took me longer than what I anticipated, and I think I was trying to revise it over and over again to the point where I was trying to perfect it. And after a while, after I've written so many books now, I realized that you don't have to create that one great book. I think every author wants to create that one great book, and every author wants some people to read that one book. But the way I see it is that I can create many good books, and if I can create many good books, then there's plenty of readers out there. They're going to want to read my books. They want to keep coming back, and so if you can keep that in mind, um, and I think you'll be fine. That's already half the battle there.
Yeah, that's so true. Like, so because I wrote a poetry book that just came out this year, and it was kind of like, for me, it was just like I just want to try it once, and I didn't want to worry about the numbers or how it was going to do, but it was just really like I just want to experience it, because sometimes it's like you can try, or you just feel like, I mean, for me, it was like vulnerability, but just like judgment and just being scared of like, who is going to want to read my stuff. Right. And then it's just like, once you do it, you're like, okay, like I didn't die. Like nothing happened. The world didn't do anything. People didn't talk crap. Like it was, and then it makes it a little bit easier to just feel like, okay, like I can continue writing and it's all okay.
Yeah, that's the feelings I had when I wrote my first one. I wasn't sure what the world would think of my book, but now when I release my book, I just set it out there and I kind of forget about it. But what I do want to talk about is like reviews. Overwhelmingly, the majority of the book reviews, they'll be positive. There'll be some negative ones, but you can't take that personally. And you have to keep in mind that the readers that you write for, they're the ones who will most likely give you the positive reviews. The ones that give you negative reviews, you have to realize that your book isn't for everyone. Not everyone's going to like it, and so just don't take it personally. And sometimes bad reviews, it's outside your control. For instance, when someone buys my paperback on Amazon, Amazon does the printing through their services. I don't print the books myself, and so sometimes their printing may be awry. It may be off color or so, and it arrives to the customer, and they get it, and they leave a bad review, and that's outside my control. But you just have to move on, keep on writing your next book.
Yeah, that's really good advice.
So how can people connect with you, and what is your, like, do you have a shop name on Amazon that people can find your books?
Yeah, so if you go to Amazon, you can find me just V space Moua. Then you'll be directed right to my page. You can go to my website too if you want to contact me, vmoua.com, or you could go to my Facebook page, V Moua Books, and I'm there too as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for just that. That was really inspirational. And I think especially us finding about your background and just, I mean, it was just, it's been an awesome episode. And we really hope that for all the folks that are watching that are looking to write, just to start writing, and that there can be success in writing, but also enjoyment outside of just any monetary gains as well. And so thank you so much, Shri, for being on with us. And thank you to everyone who was on with us tonight. If you know anybody who is looking to write, if you have children that want to write, definitely have them watch this episode and reach out to V as well to connect and to follow him in his work. Of course, here at All That Talk, we believe that conversations drive change, and change starts with you. We will see you all next week. Bye.